What is your all-time favourite video game soundtrack?
Video game music is something that is very dear to me, and because of that I found this a very delicate and difficult question to answer. It's sometimes the thing I most admire about a video game, and if the soundtrack's bad then I'm probably not going to play the game. This decision took me quite a long time to reach, simply because there's just so many great soundtracks to choose from. I don't want to use shit words like great. There's so many solid soundtracks out there that how does one decide? Oblivion, Undertale, Doom, Resident Evil, Majora's Mask, The Witcher 3, Fallout 3, Halo, ASX, Nier Automata. Which one do you pick? None of them. You can put that bit in there, but don't put that last bit after it, because they're all really good soundtracks. You can't make me pick one fucking soundtrack, man. It's not possible. After a lot of deducing, elimination, I've boiled it down to 3. So in third place, Mass Effect, with its powerful, heavy space synth. It's really got a lot of oomph. It's a game that you will never forget the soundtrack to.
Again, I thought long and hard about this one, and I ultimately was debating, do I pick something with an original soundtrack, like a score, or do I pick something that has like a recorded soundtrack songs? Ultimately, the punk rock fan in me decided that I would pick something that had a recorded soundtrack, you know, like actual songs by artists. I'm sure people will assume what I'm gonna pick. The most famous of all being the Tony Hawk's games. While I'm not knocking them at all, like all of the soundtracks for all those games are really good, but there's one, in my very humble opinion, that's even better, and that is Burnout 3 Takedown. The reason that I chose that game over all the others is because A, unlike the Tony Hawk's games, the playlist is a lot longer. I think it's clocked in at about 40 songs. And all the Tony Hawk's games, I think, clocked in at about 20. So there was more variety throughout the game. The game came out in 2004 when I was just a teenager. And it featured loads of bands that I already listened to and put me on to lots of other bands. Joe, you're gonna have to fact check this for me because I'm trying to do it from memory. Newfound Glory, Motion City Soundtrack, My Chemical Romance, Yellow Card, Fallout Boy, The Ramones were on it, Jimmy Eat World.
It's Britney, bitch.
But yeah, it was just a rad soundtrack, and also that is my Burnout 3 and Burnout Revenge that came after it are my favourite Burnout games anyway, so, and they both had wicked good soundtracks, but Burnout 3 just pips it for being amazing.
In second place, Bastion. Now this game is good, but it's not like anything to shout about, but the soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. It's probably the most unique soundtrack I've ever heard. It's got some sort of like far out space cowboy theme going on, where every track in the entire album is completely different to the previous one. The whole soundtrack is like, it tells a story. You can listen to the soundtrack and feel like you've just read a fucking novel.
All-time favourite soundtrack. There's so many. Over the years, there's been so many. So, off the top of the head, I'll have to say the Witcher 3 soundtrack, because that is just... oof. It is just oof. It's just amazing, like the vocals in it, the instrumentation, just everything about it is just like banging, just absolutely banging. I think it was done by Polish. I think they're Polish, but no, the music in that will probably be my go-to. I could listen to that daily. I could just put that on I could put my it's good. It's good. I would recommend anyone to check it out. It's like
my favourite video game soundtrack has to be Ori and the Blind Forest, without a doubt. I didn't even have to think about that. It's written by a guy called Gareth Coker. Give that guy a pat on the back. The reason that I know this guy's name is because I've absolutely rinsed the soundtrack, and for me that's when I know that a video game soundtrack has made an impact on me, when I'm choosing to listen to it even when I'm not playing the game. The soundtrack for me is probably one of the biggest reasons why I love the game. It's incredibly emotional, powerful, and it's a proper tearjerker as well. In fact, I just feel like it's more than just a soundtrack. It really tells the story of the game. Go give it a listen on YouTube. I feel like it will sell the game to you, and if it doesn't, there's something wrong with you. I'd like to give an honorary mention to the Undertale soundtrack as well. What a soundtrack.
In first place, it has to be Hollow Knight. I'm not just picking this because it's a really good game. It really is a really good game, one of the best games ever made. The whole thing is just this harmonious, synchronized sweep of orchestral grandeur. It is the most fitting soundtrack for any game I've ever played. Although there's many challenging bosses in the game, not all of them have a sort of intimidating, evil soundtrack. You got the more heroic theme tune of the Dung Defender. Although you are fighting him, you get the feeling that he's not actually a bad guy. It's like, haha, I'm going to save you, sort of guy. Same with Hornet. She's got more of a don't know how to describe it. Words cannot describe. I think that's a good way to put it. That's what makes it such a brilliant soundtrack.
I ended up thinking about it for a couple of days and then going with the first choice that I made anyway. So that was a total waste of my time, but I just came back to Undertale because it's an awesome soundtrack. It's diverse, it's atmospheric, it really just suits the game impeccably. I'm going to pick 3 songs from the soundtrack to explain why I love it. So the first one is called Bergen Truckung. And I've probably butchered the pronunciation of that, but I don't speak German. It plays when you fight Asgore. So just before you fight Asgore, you learn the origins of the human monster war. And at that point, as a game player, you probably should feel, if you're not a piece of shit, some reluctance to be in the fight. You want to escape the underground, but you realise that Asgore's not actually your enemy. He's just, trying to ensure the survival of his people. So I think it's just the relentless nature of the song. You're really caught up in the heat of the moment, but for me, I felt like the bad guy, and that's like a constant theme throughout the game. Like, are you the bad guy? Are you the good guy? So yeah, fantastic. Bergen Truckung, check that out. Secondly, I'm going to pick Death by Glamour. So the reason I picked this is because of the enigma that is Metaton. So he's like a game show host. And I actually tried to do this fight whilst I was pissed. And he just kept killing me and killing me and killing me. So that led to me having a dream with Metaton in it. So in the dream, I was in Supermarket Sweep that you might remember from the 90s with Dale Winton. So I was trying to do what I was doing in this game show, collecting cash or something, and Metaton was just being a bit of a shit. He was just throwing these inflatable Del Monte bananas at me and just generally just trying to make me fail. So that song obviously just stuck in my head. I mean, just obviously that dream aside, it's really groovy, it's really catchy, it's just awesome, love it. And then number 3 is Hopes and Dreams Will Save the World. So for me, that song is just impeccable. It's a culmination of everything you do in the game. It's amazing end game music. Sometimes I just listen to it just to get me psyched. Just there's such a progression throughout the song. It starts off slow as you begin the fight, and then as the pace of the fight picks up, it gets faster. Just unbelievable. Undertale, I salute you.
Honourable mention to the Blue Dragon boss music. It is the worst and yet best boss music of all time.
Me too. Sorry, Joe. There's a game called Wreckfest basically, which I just love the soundtrack. It's like a bit like rocky, pop punky. There's the playlist on Spotify, and we actually end up listening to it quite a bit because it is it's a really cool soundtrack which everybody should check out. And it's just good fun, like high energy, like pop punky rock music that goes really well with like Destruction Derby sort of game. And it is a really good game, and the soundtrack just adds to it really.
Doom's a good soundtrack of its fucking.
For me, straight off the bat, that would have to be Halo. Just because obviously it's an absolute orchestral masterpiece, and it just really fits everything that you're doing in the game, the scenery, the discovery of new areas, and the animals and enemies and stuff like that. It really sets the mood in every room that you go in, and it's just utter perfection in my eyes. It really got me into the game and the series that I still play today. So yeah, 100% straight away, Halo.
You know how when characters, video game characters, like do that fight characters when when they stood there waiting, get this little animation forward up and down. That's what I envision.
And there we have it. Huge props to our gamers that took part in today's episode of VGT Asks, some of which are content creators themselves. I've included links in the description to their Twitch channels or socials so that you can go over and support what it is that they are doing. Quick self-plug for those of you that are interested. I live stream on a Monday and Friday over on Twitch. Link to my Twitch channel is in the description. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. The more likes we get on a video, the more places it pops up. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, join the team, and I'll see you next time.